I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Richie.
And we are
the
Educators. And it is season 4, of course, episode 2, show number 41. Oh my gosh, and what's happening to us?
Yeah, still in that remote teaching life right now.
Yes.
Which is, you know what? I enjoy the absence of cleaning. I enjoy the absence of impending doom, and I enjoy not having to vent the room in the middle of January.
Yep.
And let the cold air in, because that is the most effective way to reduce risk, and that's going great. So I do feel much safer. I feel that unfortunately the contact rate with kids has gone down, and I feel overwhelmed with the amount of content we have to produce versus the effect it has, which we're going to talk about later in the show. We're going to talk about my personal feelings later in the show. But
I mean, I had a class today. Nobody showed up for at least 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then one person, and then a few minutes later, another person, a few minutes later, another person, then another person. And I had to backtrack a little bit. And I'm like, oh, limited time. And I have so many things to fit into 2 days worth of seeing them in person, which I do fit in with, asynchronous videos. But do they watch it? Every time I ask them, I haven't seen that video. I go, it was posted on Monday. And it's really interesting, and it's amazing. I mean, I wear a clown costume. Come on. Tomorrow I'm wearing a hat all day, a chef's hat, and I've got instruments I'm playing, right? So many things. I'm playing balloons. I'm doing everything.
What else can you do?
We're going out of our way and over and beyond what we should be normally doing. There is no normal, but
No.
What I say, make videos just kind of like this podcast, right?
That's right.
Put it on YouTube. Someday in the
content.
future, someone will discover two geniuses talking about teacher things with also subversively being quantified self, transhumanist, hoping for eternal life.
Pro-science.
Yeah.
Getting the
pro-critical
thinking. Yeah, getting the human species to be a multiplanetary species, all
Type
that good
3
stuff.
civilization. We need to get there, everybody.
That's right.
Look up this stuff. But one thing that's in our way is COVID, right?
Yes. Speaking of getting to type 3, we're going to have to get our way through a simple virus here first. So current numbers here. Not surprising to see an increase over last week, not just from our own municipality here, but across the globe. Maine, last week's weekly increase was about 3,500. This week is 4,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
United States, and that includes our highest number yet, which was yesterday, I think, right?
800. And today, more than 800.
Yesterday
today.
I think was 800.
No,
or maybe
today,
that was today.
We have another 800 plus case today.
Oh my God, another one. So all right, there we go. Yeah, so 2 days of 800.
We're gonna get near 1,000. Everyone's saying.
It feels like it really was just a few weeks ago that it was like 35 a day, but we're past that now. All right, United States coming in last week at 1.4 million weekly increase. This week 1.7. So right on target. Wow. And worldwide, 4.3 million last week, weekly increase. This week, 5.2. So, yep, hook, line, and sinker right there. The numbers are heading up. It isn't like doubling every week. If we could find any ray of sunshine in this, is that it's not skyrocketing, I guess, but it is alarming. It's record breaking. It's terrible. But it's, I don't know, it is January, so it's predicted, the last thing to call it, I guess.
Hey, there's a trivia thing on the bottom. What does that say? I can barely read it.
All right. Today's trivia question is, guess who got impeached today?
Was it our president?
Was it
Yes.
anyone else's president?
For those listeners outside of the United States, our president got impeached for a second time today.
Yeah, and if you know, not sure what that means, to be impeached, it means you've done a bad thing you shouldn't have done, and this is the most punishment that we can dish out to you.
I think that
And
also
so,
means you don't have Secret Service agents to protect you.
well, if the Senate votes to convict, so it's part of the, the separation of powers. I have to, have faith that they meant well, and you have to have a 2/3 Senate majority in order to convict. So President Trump was already impeached once last year around this time. The Senate opted not to convict, so therefore he faced no consequences. Same thing with Bill Clinton in '98, I think it was.
Yeah.
The House voted. He was impeached, but the Senate declined to convict. And so such is life, but we'll see. We need 16, basically all the Democrats would have to vote yes, and 16 Republicans. We are at least at 10 Republicans. So as sports fans out there counting numbers, we're super close, and we'll see in the next, I don't know, they're going to determine the Senate trial period. So, we're still potentially like a month away from this all coming to a close, which is just like 2020, in perpetuity, like just constantly 2020 still.
It just feels politically there's going to be an absolute mess.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Why do you think everybody listen, whoever's listening out there, why do you think we track? Why do you think we care so much about our own health and lives and stuff like that? This is all we've got, honestly. Is all you have is your health in your own life. Save yourself. The things you fight for, the big things and stuff like that, important, but not as important as your own life and keeping yourself alive, healthy, well. You have to do that. You can fight for things, but don't put your life in harm's way. Nothing is more important than staying alive and living another day to rethink what you're about to do that was going to be not so smart, right? Make smart choices, get into good habits, whatever. We'll rant about that later.
Learn from others' mistakes. So one thing that I say in the classroom, and I've probably said it in this podcast before, is that you don't have, if just imagine a whole group of people. And I think about the Boy Scouts, when I was in the Boy Scouts on a hike somewhere, the first person in line trips over a stump. Everybody in line doesn't have to trip over the same stump just to realize the stump is there. You can learn from other people's mistakes or misfortunes. It's not everyone's fault that they have bad things happen to them, but it doesn't mean that you can't use their lives as a learning experiment, experience and grow from their misfortune. So it's you don't have to go and try all these bad things and just to confirm that, they're going to mess up your life and make it more difficult to be successful. But, so keep that mind open and eyes open and save yourself a lot of hassle.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, science in the news, everybody. And we've got Mr. Richie's own drone up there. Actually, probably not.
I wish.
This one looks like it's got automatic. It lifts up its landing gear or whatever. Yeah.
No, it's got landing gear that it folds down. It folds up to get it. So this is a multi-$1,000 camera drone that is probably used at sporting events. It's very stable. It looks like a 6-rotor. So it's got complete stability. 6-rotor is something I don't even know about because I fly quadcopters. So this one is definitely ultra stable, has a gimbaled camera at the bottom. So it probably takes some amazing footage. So if anyone's, thinking what to get me for my birthday, right here, Mr. James found the picture of my Christmas birthday present here.
Yeah. It is lights on the bottom too, so I bet it when it lands, the lights are all cool and stuff. You can land at night.
That's actually a aircraft that you have to register with the FAA.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So when it gets to that point, we actually have to register it. Yeah. Because guess what? Do you have to register BB guns? No. Real guns? Yes. So when something has some serious heft to it that when you have to register it. Like
Yeah.
when you get a black belt, I heard in karate, you have to register your hands as deadly weapons. Someone told me that. I was like, you have to have a card that says you're a black belt, and they tell you like you're okay, great. What if you just barely coasted by to get it, and you're like, I kind of forgot everything.
I've got one of those cards. Let me.
Been 5 to 10
No, I'm
years.
just kidding. I
I
don't
kind of
have one.
forgot everything, and the person goes, huh, great, then I can beat you. You're like, just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Steven Seagal, which is Aikido, and I do know some Aikido, but
Oh.
don't test me on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm savage. All right, so
Right.
science
I
and
know.
news.
I always. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Drones could help create a quantum internet.
Did you get a chance to look at
I was
this?
interested in this when I did, and unfortunately, it just seems, being a drone pilot myself, it seems 30 years in the future. Like I want it to be true, but so I fly both, very cheap camera drones and FPV, very cheap FPV drones, and whether you are spending, $200 on a setup or $2,000 on an FPV or camera drone setup, the drones stay in flight for 3 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the most you're getting out of a battery pack, because you can supply a bigger battery. However, the weight of the battery eventually, like there's a happy medium, the weight of the battery decreases distance versus keeping you in the air longer.
Yeah.
And so like that 6 rotor that you're seeing there is probably more efficient. It probably has more efficient blades. They're two, I can tell that they're the blades that have just two blades, I guess, blades,
props, yeah.
and they're more efficient that way and stuff. So what I'm getting at is that drones aren't going to stay in the air. Like to make this a successful business model, you're gonna have to have drones that can stay in the air for days probably before coming in for either a recharge or a battery swap, which battery swap would probably be the most efficient. Or you could have such a large fleet, in substations around, like, say, a country, where they could just constantly be in rotation, every few hours. You at least have to have the drone in the air for a few hours for this to be sustainable. And so it just seems like it can absolutely happen, but it just seems like we're missing that energy source, as always. We're missing that dense energy source that weighs next to nothing, that could keep these drones in the air.
So yeah, basically it's kind of like, right. So they're sending out particles or whatever from drones that are suspended in the air, and they can go in between each other. But of course, quantum meaning something can be in two places and exist simultaneously in two different places at the same time and be entangled.
Sure. Yep.
And complicated stuff.
And to do that, they have to be in precise locations. And so that's why you can't have a drone just like staying up there for 3 minutes, zipping back home for a recharge. Like you got to be stable to have like this network sort of sit, because every once in a while you can have one node drop out probably, and then another pop in, a minute or something later. But like to be a sustainable network, you're going to have tens of thousands of drones at least, and they're all going to have to stay in the air this length of time. So it's like, it's totally feasible if we just have this incredible energy source that fits in our hand and is like putting out a couple kilowatts of power, so, fusion, once we need like these little fusion reactors and we'll be all set.
Yeah, definitely on that. Next item is one of the oldest known cave paintings has been found in Indonesia, which I think is amazing.
I looked into this one too. Yeah.
At least 45,500 years ago.
And I like the note that it's one of the oldest known cave paintings of an object, because there are lots of like hand paintings or things of, at least like you can tell it's ink or something, or like a pigment of some sort on the wall from human effort. However, like an actual object, like the idea of taking a 3-dimensional object into your brain and transposing it on a 2-dimensional surface is a human only feat. Like there's no other, there's nothing else. Like they have elephants that can hold a paintbrush and they make strokes. It looks like Picasso or something, and they sell it for money. They have monkeys that can do something like that too, but it's like they don't recreate objects. Like they don't reproduce three-dimensional objects in two dimensions. That's a very high level order of thinking. And so it seems that this was human in nature and not one of the other subspecies of hominid, that existed back then. And so that's also interesting, because if we did find art from a different species, I mean, I think that would be groundbreaking, especially like three-dimensional representation.
Yeah, I think the one that I
non-human species
kept seeing, like, I remember there was for the in France, the Chauvet cave. I mean, maybe saying it wrong, but they have scenes that are like 30,000 years old, and that was one of these big documentaries they had on PBS years ago that I was like, oh, that's so amazing, and you can go there and see the paintings.
So amazing, yeah.
But like to have things this old, and wow.
And like there were, there are caves, just these like rock outcroppings, like natural outcroppings where it's like an overhang of a cave where there are like thousands of years of evidence of human existence in these caves. So like, not only was it just like one tribe, one family, but like subsequent years, like in the dirt, the layers of they built upon like the ancestors before them. And it's like, these are such like important places. And unfortunately, one of them recently in Australia was recently just destroyed by a petroleum mining company and got rid of millions of years of evidence of, rock, but like, hundreds of thousands of years potentially of either human or animal remains and evidence and stuff like that, tens of thousands of years for humans at least. But like, unfortunately, that was just recently discovered. So we are constantly fighting this battle between using our resources available to us and trying to preserve history. And I think that preserving history and culture is something unappreciated in this country, but so important to humanity itself.
Yeah.
Which real quick, I got to throw this in. On NPR today, I did hear that in France, the performing arts are still thriving through coronavirus. And it's because they value culture. And as such, they have not let musicians and artists and things starve, which is a beautiful thought. And I just wondered for a moment today what it must be like to be a musician, because for those of you that have watched the show before or listened to our podcast, both Mr. James and I are musicians. Mr. James on another level than I. However, we both have had our side gigs destroyed by COVID.
And gigs that are planned for this year slowly being removed because of scared potential wedding
but,
venues
smart
and guests, and
smart on their part. I get it, but yeah.
I know, just the thing. What I think is the fact that for thousands of years, different civilizations appreciated that something was in this cave, and they go, "Hey, someone was here before us. Wait a minute," and they were having the same thought. Because even if we looked back 4,000, a group that was there 4,000 years ago, just 4,000 compared to the 45,000, I think this is 4,000 years ago, which to us is like crazy long ago, and they're so primitive compared to what we have for now. But they were looking at that going, wow, we should probably learn about this. But they couldn't. Their primitive ways would be like, let's just reach to the sky and scream or whatever. We have our own culture. And
here in America, we don't have any structure, or I don't even really, maybe some art perhaps, that's over 1,000 years old. Like but then you go fly to Amsterdam or Zurich. I went to Zurich once when I was a kid, and you are walking on streets that are 1,500 years old, like just along with another 1,000 people around you. Like, it's just no big deal. Like, there are these buildings that are 500 years old. Yeah, that old place. Yeah, that's still around, like
things that were built so well back then, and they still stand up.
And then, but then you think about, so 2,000 years ago was the height of Rome, the Roman Empire. Like, all right, that's great. 2,000 years before that, so 4,000 years ago, was like
Egyptians,
Egyptians, yeah. And
Greece.
we're talking about like 45,000 years
Yeah.
old, like these things. And that's the best estimate. Of course, there could be there's a room for error either side, plus or
Yeah.
minus. However, how incredible, like, that there were these people that took time out of their day to place their mark upon these rocks. And like, what's cool though is, like, you look at that art, and the art is like, you can tell exactly what it is. So this person practiced, and there are hundreds probably of other rocks out there that used to have at least their marks upon them, and they're gone now probably. But
Yeah.
it's just interesting to think of things like that. That's what that news kind of reminds me of.
Yeah. Gotta love history, everybody. We all need to respect history,
I
where
think
we've come from.
science and the humanities needs to be pushed as much as math and reading.
Yeah. Yeah. Last one, so we can move to a tiny little new segment we call From an Educator, is Earth's
Right.
oceans are storing record-breaking amounts of heat. I don't
It
think it's
is,
surprising. We know that's probably happening.
God, it's like, it's probably one of the greatest lessons we could learn from the coronavirus is to deal with the problems as they present themselves. And yet, as we deal with this problem that is presenting itself, so many of us, and I say us as Americans,
Mm-hmm.
are still denying this underlying problem that is staring us in the face, and that is climate change. And so the topmost layers of the ocean are warming at record-breaking amounts. Like, they are retaining this giant, they're like these giant radiators just soaking up the heat that we are producing from absorbing sun rays, basically global warming, climate change, and all that. So it's unfortunate, because if you were to scroll your feed, at least on Facebook, because you can have negative reactions like the laugh face.
Yeah.
If you scroll Facebook and you look at news articles, you will see that the laugh faces will equal or at least rival the likes, or any other emojis, emoted like reactions.
Yeah.
And that serves to tell you that we have a long way to go in this country about science literacy, because this is not a controversial subject, but us bringing it up here in this country, you and I sort of have to think like, oh, are we alienating someone in our audience?
Yeah.
But it's sort of like one of those things, like, I think that if you don't believe in climate change, you probably don't listen to this podcast, or if you do, let us know. Challenge our thoughts, challenge our ideas. I dare you to challenge my ideas.
Yeah.
But
Bring all your peer-reviewed journals, everybody. Okay.
step up to the plate, yeah, and collect your Nobel Prize on the way out. But like, the Earth is warming. The oceans are reflecting that. Our thousands of floating buoys that have temperature sensors on them are showing that. And it's like, people, you have to understand, of all the things that we can do, we can dive inside of a cell. We can like examine the heart of a galaxy. We can read thermometers and measure the content of the atmosphere
Yeah.
very, very well. And it's only these two ultra simple scientific methods of thought that determine climate change. And these are incredibly simple things that you could do. And if you live in our state, just look around this year and
Oh yeah.
understand that we have
They said
not
I heard it's going to
dipped.
be raining pretty soon. It could have another rain bout, and it's going to get rid of all the snow that has been
Yes.
here for just a little while.
And I know, and I would love for someone to comment and tell me, but Mr. Ritchie, weather is not climate. And you're absolutely right. Weather is not climate. However, it is a pattern. This is a giant pattern. This year has not dipped below 10 degrees. And by this time right now, on average, this is around the time of year that is the average lowest temperature for Maine, and around my area is negative 14 degrees. And negative 14 is something that I usually wake up to at this time of year. I mean, on the regular. Negative 10, not a problem. Yeah. Negative numbers all the time. And this year has been so comfortable. I can go to work in my electric car, and I have just this enormous amount of range. So any EV drivers out there would understand my thing. Is like, I get home with so much more range than I expected, because usually it's so cold this time of year. My car is struggling to keep itself heated. And that's not even happening this year. It's like, this is incredible. Nobody's talking about it either. None of the snowmobilers are like saying, where's the snow? Like, there's 2 inches of snow out there. Like, that's it. And so this is a big thing, everybody. And I hate to take away so much time from about this, but it is frustrating to be science, not believers, like science acknowledgers, at least. Like,
science
you either acknowledge
followers.
it or you don't. Yeah. Yeah. And to have to constantly battle this, it's like arguing if the earth is flat or an oblate spheroid every day,
Yeah. What a mess. What a mess. Well,
What
we're gonna
a
have a
mess.
tiny tiny
Yeah,
segment. We'll even time it. I'll time us. I'll give us 5 minutes on this.
Each or
And
collectively.
this is about how to use a story as an educator. All right.
Yeah.
My thing. So we use stories all the
Huge.
time. I definitely use in the younger grades, K through second, mostly K and first. I use story. I actually use books as well as telling my own stories. But I try to frame a theme for the day every time I do some sort of lesson around that book, or the book has to tie into something I'm teaching them. Even if it's only part of the book, we explore together, the students and I, when we look at a story, and I ask them questions about it. I'm not one of those that reads a story and then afterwards asks students to reflect on that. That's great for maybe classroom teachers, and that may be great if you want to for comprehension. I like to be the one that piece by piece goes through a story and ask questions about every little section of it together with the students. So we go, wow, why is that like that? So they can, my way of comprehension. I also like to find the SEL, social emotional learning connection to students, where it's a story that they can relate to. So they'd be like, oh, I can relate to that. Have you been angry before? Yeah, I've been angry before. Have you ever lost something before? And so they can relate to everything. And, I've been doing that all for like a number of years. It's great. Stories are what bring us together as humans. I mean, pretty big thing.
Absolutely. And like, so the idea of using a story to explain something can go from any subject, from history, which is usually where stories come from. I mean, that used to be the form of communication, in previous human civilization. That was the way that they recorded things, all the way to STEM fields right now. So like NASA, like I'm wearing my space hoodie right now, and but like, so in STEM fields, there are lots of new books coming out. There's not a whole lot of STEM fiction books to read to like little kids. So we work in an elementary school, and so we teach the youngest minds the biggest concepts we can possibly teach them. And so stories are a very effective method of explaining things to young students. And so I have to dig and sometimes to find resources like books and read alouds for my students. But what I've found is like, especially in STEM fields, the subject can easily be boring. I can easily take a STEM subject, like anything from aeronautics to computer science, and make it boring. The tough part, but the important part, is to make it exciting, make it interesting. And so when I use a story to illustrate something, like for career development, I introduce a story, Bernstein Bears Get a Job. And in it, I sell certain parts of the book harder than others. Like, this is a book from 1986, but when it mentions computers in it, that one little time, and, back in 86, who knows what, the computers were doing other than DOS, black and white screens. And I sell it like, that, Dad, like, you guys will have so many options when you're an adult. Whatever you want to do with coding and computers, you can do it. Make it interesting. And there's a saying in sales, whether you're in phone sales, which I have an unfortunate amount of history with in my earlier 20s, but it's conviction sells. And for me, I needed that experience in phone sales to realize that I cannot sell something that I don't believe in. There are millions of people that can do that. I am not one of them. And when you are teaching something, if you don't believe in your subject, you need to find a new job. And I believe in my subject, which is STEM. And so I have found that conviction, like just when you read a story or use a story, you sell it. You know, you basically just, you have to understand that you are potentially marking a point in this child's memory that they will reflect upon for years. And you make it interesting, sell it to them, let them feel the emotion behind it, and they will retain it better. And so use a story, use it wisely. And that's our ideas from an educator.
Yes. And with 20 seconds left, I will
Boom.
say that I do think personally, if you are somebody who can sell something that you don't believe in, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like you are morally and ethically wrong. Sorry.
You've got to
If you're saying I've got to
reassess.
eat, so I have to sell this because I don't believe in, yes. Okay, we understand if you need to make money, but you could follow down the dark path of doing something that you don't believe in to try to make ends meet and become someone that you don't like who you are.
Let me put a footnote on that. You have to be aware of the passage of time. You can use a job prospect to carry you through a certain length of time.
Yeah.
But you have to have goals that are bigger than that occupation if you are selling things that you don't believe in. If there's nothing after that, then you are eventually going to hit a brick wall where your mental, like you're just, it's going to be a lifelong regret if you do that.
Someone usually asks, I said, does it make you happy or does it make you money? If it can do both, that's great.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it's going to make you happy because the most money in the world is not buying anybody immortality. I mean, at least we haven't found out yet. If we did find out, then we would try to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, if there was guaranteed, like if you could make $1 million a year and that ended up affording you this fantastic luxury getaway once a year that extended your life, like you and I would be pulling some strings here to keep this going. But like, there's no, like the oldest people still die. It's just, that's the way it goes.
Unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that.
We're back to remote teaching. You know, in the beginning, when this whole thing began, we were remote teaching and we weren't really remote teaching. We were kind of like tagging on to classroom Zooms back in March, April, May. And
so unfortunate.
It wasn't really much for us to do. I did something extra. I had an after school thing. So I made a ton of videos for them. They didn't use all my videos. And then at the end, I don't know if the program still exists. I think the person who runs the program still has it exist so that they can maintain their job. Honestly, there's a lot of things I think that go by the wayside. And I think there's people that probably shouldn't have a job who have maintained jobs just because they found a loophole or because amidst all the confusion, they can get away with stuff. We know what happens when people are so busy with like, oh, we had to maintain this. And you kind of duck and you're like, well, look no one saw that I wasn't really doing anything or my job is not needed anymore. And yet I still maintain getting a paycheck. You know, we needed someone to go through and kind of sweep people out and change things up because then we could have saved money. But it seems to be like that's not happening. So whatever. That's a mini rant. If you're lazy, you shouldn't be paid money. Sorry. If you're lazy, you shouldn't be paid money. I'm sorry.
It's true.
Sorry,
it's true.
not sorry.
We got to go off of that tangent though, but I gotta back up that idea. In history, in human history, there is no example of a civilization where somebody doesn't give back to the community.
Yeah.
And you know, there are, okay, there's there's a small percentage of people that are just incapacitated to a point where they don't deserve to be in suffering, but they cannot contribute to society. There are these people that absolutely need that. However, some way you've got to give back to your society. You've got to give back. There is room for you somewhere. There is a place for everyone out there that is able-bodied, that can do something. It may not be the best thing, but like we'd said earlier, you can use an economic opportunity to get yourself through a certain period of life, then find what makes you happy. That's my mini rant.
Yeah, I know. And like I said, I'm not
Yeah.
angry at anybody. I'm not calling everybody lazy. I'm just saying
Yeah.
if you're not putting effort in and helping or just being part of this entire structure we have of humanity and
Yes.
civilization, then it's honestly, you can't just be coasting by and making money off others and not doing anything. It's
Right.
horrible. And you should feel horrible for not doing anything. Honestly, where are your morals at? You should feel horrible. You don't deserve to get paid just because you have been paid for years and you've gotten away with it and you've made up your own idea, your self worth. No, you're not pulling your weight. You're not putting effort in. And
And
we
if
see
and if
that with being remote.
I don't and I think that you may feel the same way. Oh no, my battery is running low in my earphones.
We
I
still
gotta
hear you. We still
change
hear you. We still
to
hear you.
live audio. Oh, messing up the whole bit here.
I can still hear
If
you.
you if you are in a hard spot, situations happen, mental health happens, but ultimately, able-bodied, able-minded person, you can't just soak and drain others without giving something back. Like if you were in the Boy Scouts, everybody goes out and finds wood to make the fire.
Yeah.
Like you don't get to have a warm fire if you don't put the effort in to produce the warm fire.
You're in Star Trek, right? You're in Star Trek, and one of the people at a computer.
All right, well, you got to contribute something to that person's life to
me.
make it worth them getting you that food. I don't know if I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't think. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Back.
Can you hear me? All right.
Back.
I was saying it's the same thing as if you were in the show Star Trek and you're at a terminal and you decide not to tell the captain what's going on. I don't want to do my job.
Yeah.
There's something headed toward us. I'm not telling you where it is, how fast it's coming. I don't want to do my job. Yeah, sorry.
And if there's anyone out there that feels that they took offense to what we said, we would love to hear your opinion and debate that opinion, because I think that our opinions are rooted in science and history, and we don't mean to offend. It's just sort of a situation. You've got to contribute to the society if you are reaping any benefits from said society.
And that kind of has to do with remote teaching, because we do have teachers we think that aren't pulling their weight with this remote teaching thing. And we do have a lot of parents or public that think that teachers in being remote are basically getting a vacation and not doing anything. I do like, well, you guys are remote, so you must be, staying in your pajamas all day and getting massages. And like, wait, you know how much a massage costs? I mean, that's like at least $75 an hour. Wow. Yeah. I mean, those are expensive, and I can't even afford good pajamas. I mean,
yeah, right. I know. Like I wear
basically leggings at night. I mean, sorry guys. I mean, they're like, what, like under gear stuff that guys wear. Okay, I'm just trying to explain myself. Hey guys, they're not, but they're basically look like leggings. I don't know, but that's
compression
they're cheap.
Though, right? Yeah,
kind of like
there's a purpose. There's a reason and purpose.
Yeah.
But like no, the ultimate thing is that in schools there is all these hidden nooks, and you and I could easily be phoning this in right now.
Yeah.
The administration is so overburdened with emotions, I think, as from parents, from staff. You and I have ourselves together. We could easily phone in a crappy lesson, but we choose not to. We choose to continually challenge the students, push their understanding, and also understand that most of them, 6/7 of our staff, our children are coming back to us next year. And so we still need to build this foundation to set them up to succeed next year in our classes. And so, no, I can't take it easy on these kids. They're going to get a quality education from me, or at least I will put out a quality education. And then right now they have the choice to absorb it or ignore it. And, it's 25% absorbing and 75% ignoring right now. And I get that. And it's frustrating, but that's what it's like. It's a lot of effort for little effect, but there are like 1 or 2 students in each class that keep me going. And these are these amazing kids that go above and beyond. They love my subject, and they just excel. And so like I'm teaching 3D printing to fifth and sixth graders. There are these kids that stay late on the Zooms. They go and play with Tinkercad after hours just for fun. They build these things, and you know what? I reward them with, I will 3D print your object. Send it to me. I'll 3D print it, make it a reality, give it to you, even though it doesn't fit the specific curriculum that I dished out. And it's like those students keep me pushing out this awesome content, because even though 80% of the kids, I'd say, don't care, or just there's something in their life that prevents them from being able to handle that much content.
I think that's one of the big things with me. It's opening avenues of new interest in like what I do. So like so one of my things I do is there's national holidays. There's many holidays every single day throughout the entire year. Today is actually National Dress Your Pet Up Day. On Monday, it was Milk Day, and I asked questions if anyone likes milk, or what if maybe they drink almond milk or coconut milk like I do and stuff. But I hit upon that. I make a video for that every single week. Because I'm not in school and I can't play music for them every few days, I now make videos of me playing music on the 2 days that I normally do, and I put it up as an announcement on every class that I'm teaching. I've done certain things that I never get through in class, slides that I didn't get through, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make a video about this. And a lot of them are movement-based, dancing sort of things. And I make videos and I put them up. I'm like, we'll see what happens. All of a sudden, entire rush of students that just love the videos. And I'm like, you know what? As long as I even had one person like them, I'm going to continue doing them. And I don't care if I'm spending 3-4 hours, a week or even more recording videos just to put out. I want them to be able to have this information and be able to and access this. And maybe for someone's rainy day or they're upset, and they can rely on that to like help them out.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, and we are also at the same time finding the limits of what our technology and what our technical expertise basically is while we're doing this. But we're getting better at it.
Every video I make, it's audio.
Yeah.
Audio issues. So I absolutely agree. Like, we are at the limit of what we can do without serious investment.
But that kind of leads into your other thing, the fear of internet tools, because we've been asking.
Do we have time to push through with all this stuff? What do you think?
Yes, we have some time. Let's do this.
All right. So recently we, or at least I especially, took a stand against the administration of not only our school, but like our school district. And lots of people in the school district really support the use of YouTube as a resource available to students. What's interesting is that in our district, YouTube is already available to, I think, high school students, and it's not available to K through 8. We happen to work in a K through 6 school without the use of YouTube. And so I had to recently put out a case to the school board superintendent as to why we need access to YouTube. It's not just a simple luxury that we're asking for. And it's sort of like YouTube is just American culture right now. It's where every good website hosts their videos on YouTube. It's just, NASA, like, I mean, any really, like, any music artist has their music up on YouTube, as well as the other audio things. And it's just sort of like, it's where people go specifically for audio-visual content. And the problem is, the dark side is, of course, YouTube can lead you down some really bad rabbit holes, and the insurrection at our Capitol is one of them. You can easily get your political mind changed on YouTube if you believe everything that you watch. And I don't know, I happen to learn a really good critical mind from my school. I feel like, I grew up in a rural school, and I promise that, like, my teachers taught me to think critically. And I don't understand how so many people got swindled recently over YouTube videos. But I see it in kids. I don't understand how adults did it. So I take that upon myself. And since I teach computer science, I let them know that there's a risk in everything that they do. I compare the internet to the city. If they go out and walk around the city without telling their parents, that's a bad thing. If they go on the internet without telling their parents, that's a bad thing. There's good people and bad people in the city. There's good people and bad people online. Everything, it's a mirror image of each other. So there's risk in everything that we do. Kids are not immune. When we teach them to walk, when we teach them to learn sports, when we teach them to drive in high school, when we teach them to use Bunsen burners in middle school, everything that we do has a risk involved. I definitely accidentally got my thumb in a grinder in shop class because I was doing something stupid. And if it wasn't for me learning that really valuable lesson, I mean, I've been around grinders and bench grinders for almost my entire life since high school. And I've never got my thumb caught in another one. Like sometimes you've got to understand that there's risk in everything, but there is still valuable lessons to be learned. And it is ultimately a good thing. YouTube is an opportunity to learn about how to be creators of content rather than just being consumers. I didn't even make this argument in my video. There's so many facets and avenues that I could have gone down, but teaching kids to get control of their content and of their lives is one of the most important things you can tell them, and teach them. It's YouTube is not just for consuming. YouTube, which we are broadcasting on or will be uploading this video to, or Neil, Mr. James will be, is a incredible resource, and you have the ability to produce content. And that's what I teach students. At first, I used to scoff at their aspirations to be YouTubers, but now I see the serious benefit of it. We are in a service-based economy, and entertainment in any of its forms is valuable. And I cannot rail against YouTubers saying that they're lazy or not really worth their value when I am a musician myself and I play shows and bars. So, there's an opportunity to create here, and I think that that's a valuable lesson being missed.
Yeah. I also know that the students already kind of know YouTube, and if we're talking basically about YouTube, and they're the best to troubleshoot how it can be effective.
Yep, absolutely.
So how they can, we like this video and it led us to this video and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of what leads us to know if things work. I showed it this week, a program called Splice, and kids loved it. And it was for making beats, and someone made it right in front, just used it. One class didn't really care about it. And I was like, this is pretty awesome. And I used it with body percussion, and I was playing and it moving and changing the tempo. So I had to try to keep it going as fast as I could. They loved it. I think it was just a great way to kind of just to see through their eyes how it works and how it gets affected. And because it's YouTube, and because, especially with YouTube, people have a lot of money for great cameras. We're both looking at webcams.
Yeah.
Different quality.
I'm looking at a built-in webcam.
You've got 720. I've got 1080, but it's not amazing like 4K. It's it's too bad. But pro YouTube.
We cannot have fear of current culture. It's like one thing to be fearful of future technology, but this is 15-year-old technology, and it's about time that schools wake up and give us access to this.
Yeah. All right. You got a 60-second rant?
I do not, but you do.
All right. I got to get a rant going. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Boom. Let's get some music too. Okay. Let's just say this. Google just acquired Fitbit. That's great. I'm hoping they do something with Fitbit. Hopefully they make Fitbit better, because I heard they don't seem to last so long. At least a few anecdotal people have mentioned to me. Also, I heard that there might be a wearable that can check your blood sugar, which would be a great thing to have without taking your blood, or interstitial fluid like the Dexcom series does. For those that are diabetic, you might have heard about that. I heard they're really expensive. This would be a cheaper way to do it. I also think of some other wearables that should be coming out soon. we have so much wrist space and we have leg space, but there's so many different ways we can measure things, and we should just have things on us, and we should have them interconnected with each other, not just the fact that it's going to some data hub and then sold to the highest bidder from these companies. And who knows what Amazon's doing right now on my wrist. I think they know what I want, but yeah. Boom.
I agree. We gotta measure what's going on here.
Man, stop it. Okay, great. All right, everybody, that is our show. This is our last slide, of course, until we get a new picture, because it's just a really weird one in the summer.
I know. I miss those. I miss the hot days in the studio there. The balmy days where we had windows open and whatnot.
I know, and it's totally different right now, because what you're looking at is the opposite. This is that other window on the right side right here.
That's right. Your whole
that's that
spot
window.
is different.
So
yep.
I'm basically sitting where that keyboard where the Apple sticker is. And I don't know why someone put an Apple sticker on one side and a Behringer sticker on the other side. Look up those companies. One of them makes these high-end premium. The other one makes basically the cheapest audio stuff that they can try to get away with. And it's a hit or miss if it works sometimes.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of Behringer stuff. This microphone
is it good or bad?
yeah, but it's always hit or miss, and yet you're like, why is it so cheap? I can't believe it's so cheap. But yeah, those two companies don't go together. Whoever I got that keyboard from doesn't really know what they're talking about, but whatever. It was a good price. It was an eBay bot. So anyways, everyone take care. I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Richie.
And
we are
the Educators. Have a great night.